You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
And now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Hey IRN listeners, Bob Tarmac here to announce the launch of the Moon Viewing Project. The Moon Viewing Project is an entirely non-government funded educational project that will launch a private satellite into Earth orbit. And get this, then send it to the moon, into moon orbit, with the mission to map the surface of the moon using the latest in high-definition photographic technology available. Be sure to stay tuned right here on IRN for all the latest developments of the Moon Viewing Project.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Really happy to have you all with me here tonight on the show. It's going to be kind of interesting, I gotta say. I've got a very amazing character with us here tonight. And I call him a character only because he's a MUFON buddy as well. His name is Jeremy Ray. He is one of the players, I call them, the main players at MUFON. He's also a big star on Hangar 1. So we got to give him all kind of kudos here tonight. We're going to talk a lot about MUFON, Hangar 1. We'll talk about just about anything we can come up with here on the show tonight. And don't forget, you guys, this is very important. The last half hour of the show, those of you in the chat room, which I'll get into here in a few minutes, those of you in the chat room, I really love your questions. You guys are really the bread and butter of the intelligence of the show. You know that, you guys. So give me your questions in the last half hour for Jeremy, and of course I'll read them off and Jeremy will answer them to the best of his ability. And since he's a STAR team member, he's got all kinds of great information that we hardly ever get, and I know he's laughing in his heart right now because he knows there's a lot of stuff he can't even tell us. So this is going to be a lot of fun tonight, you guys. We're going to try to pry some proprietary information out of Jeremy here on the show. But before we get to that, of course, I've got to bring up all the business at hand at the beginning of the show. And the first thing tonight is that UFO Con, the Experiencer event, is coming up. It's the end of October, you guys, so don't forget. This is an extraordinary conference that I'm putting together. And, you know, I say that, and I feel really weird saying it since it's my conference. But the truth of the matter is, it really is an amazing conference. I try to look at it, you know, from just a person who would be going to a conference's point of view. And I'm happy to say, every time time I do, I go, wow, that's really a cool event, and I want to go. So that makes me feel good that I'm putting together something quite extraordinary. I don't have the big name speakers, you guys. I can't afford them, first of all. Second of all, it shouldn't be about the money in the first place. That's my opinion about this. Everybody gets mad at me that's in the business of the UFO world. They all go, Lorien, you're so ridiculous that you don't think money is the goal here is to make money. I go, no, the goal here is to educate the world about what's going on in the UFO community. About the experiencers, about what's happening. I see and Jeremy and I will talk a little bit about this later on, but we're way beyond the days of looking at lights in the sky, folks. We're way beyond that. And you guys know that. If you know me and you listen to my show, you know that I'm just not I love the fact that there's UFOs out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's really interesting and an extraordinary place to dedicate your life to, finding the crashes like the STAR team does. I mean, that's really awesome. But bottom line is, there are more experiences out there coming out every day telling us that they're in communication with other dimensional beings. And, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure that these other dimensional beings are all, UFO people. I mean, there's got to be 3D UFO aliens. There's got to be other dimensional beings like angels and different kind of star light beings and even beings that are probably closer to God. Yes, I said it, folks, probably closer to being God. But anyhow, point to all this is I go to my website and I look at the speakers, and they're not your big name speakers. These aren't people that are going to headline it at these big conferences where there's thousands of people, supposedly thousands of people. That's another whole topic I won't get into here, but I think people are padding their numbers at some of these events to make you think that what they've got going on is super special and super important. But that's me. Hey, what do I know? I just count the people. I sit there and I count how many people are actually at these events. And then when I hear them going on about, oh, we had thousands of people there, I think to myself, really? Okay, there's the sign on the wall that says this place can only hold, 1,250 people, and you're telling me you've got 1,700. Okay, right. Like the people wouldn't shut you down. I want to say the fire marshal would shut them down for having too many people there. So anyhow, but that's, I'm not going to say any more about that. I'm not going to be petty. Anyhow, so back to my conference. It's really quite extraordinary. Let's see. I'm working on the speakers list today, and I just want to rattle these off to you, and then I won't bring it up anymore tonight. But Cynthia Crawford's going to be there, one of the most amazing contactees that I've ever met in my life. Gordon Asher Davidson, who is going to be on Coast to Coast tonight. So after my show, you guys can go over and listen to him there. And then Nadine Lalich is going to be there, Barbara Lamb, Lori McDonald, who's a hypnotherapist that's going to be running a group regression during the whole, everybody in the audience on Saturday night. We're going to do a giant group regression. It's going to be quite extraordinary. Robert Perala will be there talking about his experience 30 years ago that is still a very unique experience because there are no other people talking about the people that he ran into in these spacesuits in his bedroom. I need to run into them. They came into his room out of a portal, and they're wearing these kind of metallic spacesuits. And it's just wild because there's only been one other contactee that we know of in the United States in the last 40 years that has even described these beings. So this is why it's so freaking bizarre. And I'm starting to wonder, and Robert is too, we're kind of going down the path of wondering if these aren't people from our very near future testing, going back in time. And because he says they look human with these weird spacesuits on. So it's very crazy. And he's going to talk about where he's coming to at this point in time with this whole experience he had and what he thinks it spells out for him and all of us for the future. So I think it's going to be a really extraordinary experience for us with him. So, that's Robert Peralta. Then Ralph and Marcia Ring will be there. And Ralph and Marcia are the most amazing people I've ever met. I know them personally. They're wonderful. They're extraordinary. And then Sherry Wild will be there. And I have another guest speaker coming. I'm not sure who it is yet. I'm let's put it this way. I've got one speaker in one hand and one in the other, and we're juggling to see who can make it. So there we are. Okay, and these are all experiencers, folks. There isn't one person on that list who hasn't had some type of contact. So it's going to be really amazing. Oh, Janet Lesson will be there as well. I forgot to mention Janet. She's absolutely phenomenal woman. She has been in contact her entire life, and she's got an extraordinary book out called Dancing with the Aliens, or The Alien Dance, something like that. It's quite extraordinary. She is featured in the new movie about the reptilians, and I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but if you guys look it up, there's a movie out called Reptilian something, and you can find it, and you can see her and a lot of other people in this amazing new movie. So there you are. Okay, enough about that. You can buy your tickets if you're in Northern California, Oregon, Nevada, Southern California, wherever you are on the West Coast. Get to the conference. It's very affordable. It's CAUFOCon.com. That's CA for California, UFOCon.com. Okay, that'll probably be the first and last time I go through the whole list of speakers on the radio show, so I hope you guys were paying attention. So anyhow, get to the website, CAUFOCon.com. Okay, now the other event that I'm really excited about, and I will be there, folks, hell or high water, as they say. I'm going to be expanding ufology, the MUFON Symposium, the MUFON's annual symposium, September 24th through 27th. It's at the Hotel Irvine in Irvine, California. It's going to be really fun, amazing, and I'll be there with all my MUFON buddies. So let's see, MUFONsymposium.com. Now, I spelled it right today. It's SYMPOSIUM.com, MUFONsymposium.com, and lots of great speakers going to be there this year. I wonder if Jeremy's going to be there. Let me click on this and see. He may not be, but that's okay. Paul Hellier's going to be there, Era Judkins, Cheryl Jones, Greg Matholic, Jaime Musan, John Greenwald, Linda Zimmerman, Mark D'Antonio, Nancy Tuture, and Preston Dennett, one of my favorite guys in the whole world, Robert Schroeder, and Stanton Friedman. And I also know that Kathleen Martin will be there to help with the experiencer people at the MUFON Symposium this year. So please visit the website, MUFONsymposium.com. Try to make that as well. But I really, really want you to make both conferences. It's really important. One will be all about UFOs, and the other one's going to be all about the experiences that the contactees have. So you have good choices there, folks. Okay, and finally here at IRN, I want to thank IRN for not simulcasting. What do they call that? Rebroadcasting, giving me the rights to rebroadcast. Tonight I'm having one of those nights, folks. Rebroadcast the show on many other networks. I really appreciate that from them. They're letting me rebroadcast on Veterans Truth Radio Network and also on Late Night in the Midlands with Mike Vara. So I really appreciate that, you guys. Thank you. And and they thank you too. Both networks really appreciate the fact that you guys are doing this for them. They really do. Okay, one last thing about IRN. You guys need to get your app. Be sure to get your app. It's very important. That app tells you when the show is going to be coming on, and everybody else's show, especially Paying Radio on Sunday night with MJ. MJ is my producer here. He's also one of the owners at IRN, and this guy is amazing. So, please listen to his show. He has amazing guests as well. So there we are. Okay. Now, I'm going to do one more thing before we get to our guest tonight. And I just wanted to say, I was perusing through the MUFON Journal. It says, it's the MUFON newsletter for July 3rd. And on it, it had this cute little story. And I say cute little story because it is very nice. It's very well done. And what they've done is over at the MUFON website, they are asking the different directors to tell their story about how they got involved with UFOs in kind of a nutshell. So it's only a few paragraphs. I want to read to you about Ruben Uriarte, the Northern California State Director, my boss. Really great guy. If it wasn't for Ruben, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair talking to you guys right now. That is absolutely for sure. Here's what Ruben says in his little kind of biography of how he got involved with MUFON. Because I have encountered many synchronicities in my life that have guided me on my path on investigating UFOs. I had my first UFO sighting when I was a kid at 8 or 9 years old in Oakland, California. I saw an oval-shaped object located at the southeast portion of the sky. At first I thought it was a balloon, but it did not move and it remained motionless. Several days later, my friends and I were playing at a playground next door to the apartment where my family lived. My friends looked up to the sky and yelled, "Hey, look, a flying saucer." I did not see the object, but I felt deep in my heart it was connected to my previous sighting that I had the other day. This experience had a major influence on me. I always had a fascination for science, astronomy, science fiction, and space exploration. I also had a significant experience where I saw 3 objects close up with binoculars when I went on my first crop circle tour to England in the summer of 1994. My experience was published in Dr. Richard Haynes' book, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. My story experience was aired on the Travel Channel UFO Crashed My Vacation episode about his adventure. So anyhow, great little synopsis about Ruben, and the guy is just phenomenal. He is a phenom here in Northern California, and I just want to thank him again for getting me into the driver's seat at MUFON. And, I should oh God, okay, poor Jeremy, he's sitting there in the wings and he's going, oh my God, this girl just goes on and on. I won't be talking for 2 hours. But anyhow, I think I'm going to clue you guys in on the fact that I've been stirring the pot at MUFON lately. And I don't know how much I can tell you guys, but I can tell you this. There's a lot of things going on in MUFON that I'm happy about, and there are a lot of things I'm not too thrilled about. And I didn't think I'd ever say that live here on air, but I think you guys need to know that there are things in MUFON that are just so far beyond people's control at the helm that they're going to have to really do some backtracking and try to figure out how to get some of these little issues dealt with. And it's not all the headquarters faults. I really how can I say this? I don't blame them, the people in charge right now, for some of the problems that I'm running up against within MUFON. I think the problem goes way back to like 2 or 3 directors ago, where things got just so really out of hand that everybody was doing their own thing without asking for permission. And that is one of the problems I'm having. And that's it in a nutshell. It's nothing huge. It's nothing horrible. It's just that I really think MUFON needs to start looking into how people are making decisions on their own without really having board meetings where the membership, and this is why I'm telling you guys about this, is because I think as a nonprofit, every organization that's a nonprofit should be listening to their membership. I'm just not sure MUFON is quite at that stage yet. I can guarantee you this, though. Jan Harzen is working very hard to try to get the membership involved much more so and have much more say. And I'm looking forward to that. So I'm in here just for you guys as the members, stirring the pot, letting you know that I am not letting the administration, as they say, quote unquote, off the hook about little things going on in MUFON that I hear from my membership. When I run my meeting, people come up to me all the time and they have little complaints about the way MUFON is being run. And frankly, I don't think they ever hear these things. So I am, on your behalf, going to them, explaining to them that there are things that they really need to be listening to, and hopefully they're doing so. So I want to let you guys know I'm in your corner. I'm in here for the little guy. The little guys in MUFON, the people who buy their membership and, get their newsletter every month and everything. So I'm here fighting for you. So the reason I brought this all up tonight, I had to get that out so I could get to you and tell you this. If you guys have any complaints about MUFON, if you have something that's going on that's really irritating you and you're just not getting any satisfaction about it, email me. And I'll see what I can do, because I kind of feel like that may be my role as a MUFON director or section director is to really help you guys get the word to the management about what's going on. Maybe I can start a grievance committee. I don't know, but anyhow, so go ahead and email me. You can email me through my MUFON website. That is the MUFON website. That's MUFON, Marin, MARIN, Sonoma, SONOMA.com. That's for Marin County, Sonoma County here in Northern California. MUFON, Email me through there and let me know if there's something I can help you with, because you never know. Because maybe me just calling Jan might solve an issue that's important to all of you. You never know. Anyhow, okay, enough of all that tonight. Now I'm going to bring on our guest. It's 2 hours later, and Lorien's talked through the whole show. Hey, Jeremy, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Lorien. How you doing?
I'm sorry. I said it would be like 5 to 10 minutes. 20 minutes later, I finally be quiet. But anyhow, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, and I enjoyed listening to you. You could have kept on going if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, right. I know that's what everybody says. It's like, yeah, I love being a guest on your show. I get a whole 5 minutes. Anyhow, well, let's start out with, now, I just dropped kind of a bombshell here on the show tonight that I'm in there rattling poor Jan's cage on, probably a weekly basis. No, it's not that often, but, every time I see him, it's never, hi, Jan, how are you doing? I hope everything's going well. It's, hi, Jan, how come you haven't fixed this? Poor guy. I'm starting to feel really sorry for him, but...
Well, Jan is a very, very busy man, and hey, maybe we should change your title to public relations officer or something like that.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if I shouldn't start, like I was saying, like a grievance committee or something. But, I just feel sorry for him. I've said all this tonight, but, in my heart, I feel sorry for him because, like I told him last time I saw him, man, you inherited a can of worms here and there. And luckily enough, you've been great because he's actually, sealed the cans and kind of put them on the back shelf, and they're not problems anymore. So he does a really great job at that, and I got to give him kudos because it's a tough job to be sitting in his shoes, and you got thousands of people coming at you every day. And I know because I used to run a nonprofit where I had 450 MFTs in the county of Marin County that came to me 3 days a week running their nonprofit, and it was absolute pandemonium. So I can't even imagine what he's going through with thousands, Oh,
well, I'm pretty sure that the best way to do it is take it day by day. That's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, that's all you can do, especially with all that he's got going on. Anyhow, now enough about the whole MUFON thing I was talking about earlier in the show. How did you get involved with MUFON in the first place? And tell people about who you are and what you do. And I know you're on the STAR team, so tell them about that, and we'll go from there, okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm on the STAR team. I've been with MUFON since 2006. I joined the Northern California chapter, and Ruben Uriarte was the guy who trained me. He was
wonderful.
Yeah, so he went on my first case with me and walked me through the ropes. And God, what a great state director he is. I actually miss him. I know. See, that's why I tell people they have no idea what a phenom Ruben is. And he has gotten more people involved in California in MUFON than people can shake a stick at. I know. It's amazing how much he's done. Hopefully I will see him at the symposium. I'm pretty sure he's going to be there. Yeah, we're all going. The whole Northern California group is going, I think. So it's going to be quite fun. Yeah. Actually, I think the last time I saw him was at the UFO Congress, and I believe you were there too. I was in line with you. We were getting food. Do you remember that? No. I don't remember much of anything. Isn't that terrible? I mean, I work. When I go to that Congress, people laugh at me, but I don't go there to have fun. I go there to work. I'm on air 4 hours a day live for 4 days. So that's 16 hours of talking, and I'm, by the time I see you guys to get food, it's only because I'm exhausted and I can't think anymore, especially by Saturday night, because I've been on air 3 days then.
So, plus I do a live show on Wednesday, and yeah, it's just like, I don't remember much. So that's the bottom line there. So anyhow, so we got food. So I met you.
Yes, actually, Cynthia Siegel introduced me to you a long time ago, but it's okay, no big deal. I think when I was in California, I don't know how many cases I did, but I moved to Texas, and then I did cases there for a little while, and then in 2012 I moved to Denver. So now I'm an investigator here in Denver. So
awesome! That's really cool. So you've been around. So you were down where Ruben was doing his conferences the last
and
few years.
I used to drive down there to go listen to his talks. And when I was in Texas, it was right when Stephenville started, and Ken Cherry was my state director.
Gotcha.
And then Doug Wilson, who's Denver, Colorado state director, he's awesome. I really do enjoy working with him. You've got him. I'll introduce you to him one of these days, whenever.
Cool. That'd be great. Well, at the symposium, which everybody here is going to go to that can.
Yeah,
we'll be there to. I'd love to meet him. Yeah. So I plan on meeting all the directors. So that'll be fun.
Speaking of the symposium, I know that all of us that have been on the show, Hangar One, we were trying to see if we can get some of the guests or whoever that was on the show to come to the MUFON symposium. And I've talked Dwight and his wife to come. So Dwight Eats.
Great.
So he'll be coming. Ben Moss and Tony will be there. Of course, all the MUFON people will be there. I don't think Richard Dolan's going to be there. He's not speaking. But and then the actors, believe it or not, they're the people that in the show that are moving the boxes around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A few of them are going to be coming too. So that's pretty cool.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to be there broadcasting live for several days. It'll probably turn into the same type of thing I do at International UFO Congress, where I'm broadcasting like 4 hours a day. So I'd love to interview the guys moving the boxes.
They're really I think I can't remember her name. I feel so bad right now. But they actually really do enjoy the show and are interested in UFOs. So that's probably another reason why they're coming. So,
cool. That's going to be fun. So anyhow, so you got involved in Northern California, and we've crossed paths, and I don't remember because I don't remember yesterday, to tell you the truth.
That's okay.
But I'm glad you're here on the show tonight.
Yeah,
and so this is cool. So finally we meet. For real.
Yeah, I still haven't answered your first question. I kind of got off track there. But what got me interested in UFOs was when I was 16 years old, and of course I didn't ever expect this to ever happen to me in my life, and it changed my whole life. But I had a sighting, and it was in my neighborhood. Would you like me to talk about it?
Yes, please do. We got 3 minutes left before the first break, but if we get cut off, we'll just go into the rest of it when we get back. So hey,
okay, I'll tell you
go forth.
But it basically it was March the 20th, 1996, and I was 16 at the time, and I was walking through my neighborhood going over to a friend's house, and there was this object that was hovering about treetop level. It was an oval-shaped ball of light that had these like strings coming out of it. It looked like strings, but they weren't. It looked like beams or like light beams coming out left and right. And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was in my face, and the UFO was right under the sun. And I just stood there for like 5 minutes. I couldn't figure out what it was. I wasn't scared or anything. It seemed odd. It seemed like it didn't belong there. It looked like some cheap Star Trek special effects that was drawn in the sky.
Wow.
So
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think nothing of it. I figured, I don't know what this is. Let me just get a grown-up, and they'll tell me what it is. They'll know what this is. So I went across the street and got one of my neighbors out, and I can't remember his last name, but his name's Dick, and he walked out there and looked up at the object and looked at me and just totally freaked out. I ran inside, and he came back out with his wife with a camera and sunglasses, and we watched this thing for a good 15 minutes. Anytime
Wow.
anytime
Now, that's a long time.
Yeah, I think I can continue with the story when we get back. But yeah, and in that 15 minutes, I got more neighbors out of the house. Yeah, of course, to this day, I still haven't got an answer. That was a long time ago.
Wow,
Still don't know what it is.
Yeah, we'll take a break here in just a second, but as soon as we get back, I want to start dissecting what it might have been, because I love doing that. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what it is. It's a UFO, because I've dissected it over years.
Well, but I still want to dissect it for the
Sure.
whole listening audience. But yeah, no, you're right. It was a UFO. See, that's what. And I want to also touch upon the fact that there are so many people out there like yourself that have seen something, and I never saw anything, but I was completely drawn into this whole thing as well. And I want to talk a little bit about that and compare notes too. So that'll be kind of fun. So hey, everybody, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back in just a few minutes, and we're with Jeremy Ray from the TV show Hangar One. It's the MUFON show, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. I'm really happy to have you guys here with me tonight on Inception Radio Network, the home of the most amazing app on the planet. I hope you guys have all gotten it. And let's see, what else is going on here? Well, we're waiting for Jeremy to get back to the microphone. He'll be back any second. Right, there he is. Okay, great. Let's see. Oh, okay.
I'll continue my story where I left off, or start.
Yeah. Oh, I just got an email from Ruben. So I'd let you know that it just popped up. Oh, by the way, folks, I just want to interrupt you, Jeremy, for 1 second. Ahead. Then we're going to get back to your sighting, because I think your sighting is amazing. If any of you guys are in Northern California and you want to come to a fun event, this Saturday night I'm having my 4th annual brown bag dinner and skywatch in Petaluma, California. So go to MUFONMarinSonoma.com and check it out, because it's going to be a lot of fun. And we were just laughing because Ruben is presenting for a short amount of time at this event on Saturday night, and he just emailed me. He wants to do a PowerPoint presentation and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, of course. And Ruben will be there, and Joanne Richards will be there, and an extraordinary guy that nobody knows about except for my MUFON group up in Petaluma is a guy by the name of Mike Davis. You guys might want to look him up on Facebook. I think that's the only place he is. His name is Mike Davis. He has a book out called Falling Sky, and he is a lifelong experiencer. And the fun part about this, folks, is that it's like less than a mile and a half away from the Petaluma Senior Center, there's been a UFO landing in this guy's front yard for his entire life. So I got to say, it's pretty wild up in Petaluma. It's got some real activity going on, and that's where I saw the big black triangle spacecraft. And I have heard rumor from several sources that there is a secret military spaceport up in Mendocino County. And it's not just one person I've heard it from. It's from several now. So when I start hearing this from, I hear it from one person, I go, okay, all right, whatever. And I just kind of lock it into my head and I let it go. And then, a year later, I hear it from somebody else who lives in maybe a different part of Northern California. And then, about 2 years later, I hear it from somebody else. By the time the third one came along, which was just recently, I said, boy, there's got to be something to this, because I wouldn't be hearing this from, and these aren't just your regular everyday UFO nuts people. These are ex-military, these are scientists, these are people I know and trust to be telling me the truth. So, one's an ex-cop too, so.
I'm an experiencer too. I've had way more sightings than just that. This was my first one.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not my first close encounter either. But that would be like a whole nother show, and maybe one of these days, I will.
Yeah, someday when you're ready to get into all that.
Yeah, I probably might write a book or something.
You got to be ready for all that. That, when you come out as an experiencer, that's when, boy, I'll tell you what, my life completely changed the minute I started talking about some of the stuff that I've experienced. And mine is an alien, so people just go, they really think I'm a nut job. So. And it's amazing, folks. You'd think that people wouldn't be as judgmental with me because of what I've been through, but I think they're 10 times more judgmental because I can't say to them, oh yeah, I saw a gray alien, or I saw a mantis, or I saw a light beam. My encounters aren't like that. Mine are much more nefarious and I think much worse in many ways, because I was dealing with mind control people and people in black uniforms and all kinds of crazy stuff in my lab stuff, maybe. But I've never seen an alien that I know of, but I've been in contact with some kind of what I call my angel my entire life. So who knows what I'm in contact with? But I'll tell you what, Jeremy, the minute you come out and say, oh, I talk to aliens, boy, everything changes.
But thanks for the warning.
Yeah, I mean, it can get ugly. So anyhow, okay, let's move on. Okay, back to the ship. Now, this ship is really extraordinary to me.
Okay,
you're saying it's like a glowing thing with these strings of...
If you could imagine like an elongated oval shape, kind of like a very thin rectangle but curved on the sides. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Oblong or whatever. But and then on the left and right of this light, there was what I would call like light beams or a laser beam, or it just looked like it was beams coming out from left and right. And then if you followed the beam all the way to the leading edge, it would start to become more transparent. The best way I could describe it is if you're walking, in you're leaving your grocery store and you're out in the parking lot, and the sun is beating down on like a chrome bumper. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it follows your eyes when you're walking. That's kind of what it looked like. But a little bit more, a lot more bigger and a lot more brighter than the sun. But what was weird about it was it didn't hurt your eyes to look at it. The sun, of course, hurt your eyes. But this thing was casting shadows, and it's kind of I'll get to that. That's at the end of the story. But anyway, that's the best way to describe it. When Dick went inside and got his sunglasses.
Yeah, this is your neighbor that you
Yes.
went and got, right? Okay.
Yeah, I never met him before. I mean, even though they were my neighbors, they lived about 10 houses down. And like I said, I was walking to a friend's house. So I've seen these people mow their yards and stuff, but I've never, ever introduced myself to them. I didn't even know them by first name basis. But
Sure.
I just figured I know there's a man that lives there. And I rang the doorbell, and he answered the door with his shirt off. And he was kind of like, what are you selling? That look on his face. And I said, hi, my name is Jeremy Ray. I live down the street here, and I just happen to be walking through the neighborhood, and I see this light in the sky, and I cannot figure out what it was. And I was wondering if you could tell me what this is. And so he walked out, looked at the light, and went, oh, my God. And then he ran back inside, put his shirt on, and then him and his wife came out, and they had a camera, and they had this is 1996. He didn't have a video camera. He had just a normal disposable camera. I remember he used to buy those disposable cameras at the grocery store or whatever. But anyway, he walks out with that, and they look through the sunglasses, and he goes, in our discussion, we're trying to figure out what it is, and he goes, well, you can see a lot better with the sunglasses on. Here, take a look. So I put the sunglasses on, and then what I could see was inside that oval shape were 4 to 6 iron bars, okay, and the light was pulsating around these bars, like vertical bars, okay. So
Jeremy, I've never heard of anything like this.
Oh well, this is it. To me, what it looked like was, with a normal naked eye, it looked transparent on left and right, and then really bright in the middle. When you put the sunglasses on, you could see inside like a very thin line of like these vertical bars, or I don't know what material it's made out of course, but I could see the light pulsating around it. Like it would pulsate, and then I can barely see the bar, and then it would throb back, and then I could see it again, and then it would pulsate, But when you looked at it with a normal eye, you didn't see no pulses. It's just really strange.
Sure.
So we all were looking at sunglasses, and I was like, well, we better get a picture of this, So Dick grabs the camera, points it at the UFO, and right when he does, the UFO takes off into the sun. So, like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun's right above us, and it lines up perfectly to where you can't see it, but, I could see the left and right, those lines sticking out from the end. I thought it was going to leave. I told Dick to put the camera back down, and when he put the camera down, the object came back to its original position. Okay, so by that time we were I think all our mouths were open, and we just realized that this is under some kind of intelligence control, So what I wanted to do was I wanted to get under it so I can get a better view of it, because the sun's still hitting us in the face. So I start walking towards it, and Dick and his wife are saying it's backing up. And to me, it looked like it was staying still. I didn't see it move, So I start walking towards them, I turn around and coming back, and they go, nope, it's following you now. And I'm looking at it while I'm walking towards them, and to me, it still looks like it's staying perfectly still. So I go, really? I'm having a hard time believing them, because I'm looking at it and it's not moving. So I move across the street, and they say it follows me across the street. I move back over to where I was at, and they say, no, it is following you. And both of them are saying that. So I guess from them being still, they could see it. But as for me moving, it kind of gave an illusion like it was still staying perfectly still. I don't know how to describe that to you, but that's just...
No, that makes perfect sense. Because I've seen a giant black triangle. I've also seen 3 balls of light in a triangle formation over a house that, the problem is, now you saw yours in broad daylight, so you had reference points. Just a little different than what I had, because both of my sightings were at night, and it was very hard to tell how close or far away they were. Were you, anyhow, my point to this is, usually the person that the UFO is trying to appear to or is in contact with in some way, it will move around with them. Like, people call them in. And they're there just for that person. If that person decides to leave, they just zip away. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, it makes total sense that it's doing that to you. And that you can't tell it's moving.
Yeah, I was actually just... I remember the thought went through my mind is like, how could they be saying that it's moving, and I'm looking right at it and it's not moving? It just as a 16-year-old kid, that just went way over my head. I can understand it now, but so that was kind of frustrating. I'm trying to get under it the whole time so I can get a bet. I want to see what's under it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I decided to flank this sucker, and I figured. Oh, first off, let me back up. I said, well, if I can't get under it, I'll just, and if it's really following me, I'm just going to walk past Dick, and it'll follow me, and it'll go right over their heads, and they'll be able to tell me what it is. And so I discussed that with them, and then I started walking away from them, and the UFO started following me. But by the time it got to them, it stopped, and they were both like, nope, it's not moving anymore. Come back, Jeremy. So that's when I decided to flank it, and I went kind of in a long arc to go around it. And now I'm behind it, and Dick and his wife are in front of it. And I decided, you know what? I need more eyewitnesses. I need more people here, because they don't have a clue what this is. I'll get another grown-up out of the house to figure out what this is. So I knocked on Mrs. Ladwick's door, and she comes out with her daughter. Her daughter, I guess, goes back inside. But, she stood there for a second and then went back inside. But Miss Ladwick comes out, and I go, Miss Ladwick, I'm sorry for bothering you, but we're trying to figure out what this is. And you got this big UFO-looking thing hovering right above your house. And she kind of interrupted me and was like, oh, my God. And she walked right towards it. And now she has this huge tree that's in her front yard. So I don't know, but she was under the tree. And right when she came out under the tree, she was right under the UFO. And when she did that, that's when it took off. And I remember very well, it was so fast. I remember everybody's shadows got super dark. I remember the best way to describe it, I'm looking up at it while it left. I can't tell you which direction it went. I can't tell you if it went up and down, left or right, but the best way I can describe it is if you had a rubber band and we cut it in half and you held the other end and I held the other end and we let go of it, that's what it looked like. It looked like it folded upon itself. And it made these colors of purple, pink, and blue. I remember Dick's wife describing the same thing. She saw blue and pink. She didn't see purple, but I saw purple, pink, and blue, and it looked like scales. Like a snake or rattlesnake. It looked like each of the scales it looked like they all lit up, in like a pretty color. And then it just folded upon itself. Dick was going for another picture, so he saw the light flash on his hands. And me and Dick's wife saw it take off. But Mrs. Ladwick, she was blinded by the flash, and she described it as you took 2 fingers and you pushed it on your eyes really hard, and you let go and you get that black fuzziness, that kind of has to open up.
Sure.
She had that going on, and she was a little disoriented, and she had to take a knee. She had to put her knees on the dirt because she couldn't, and we helped her up. She's like, I'm really dizzy. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
So we were like totally blown away, and I remembered asking Dick, so what the heck was that? And he goes, I have no idea, but whatever it was truly extraordinary, And I was like all excited, and I run home to tell my mother, and she has a guest at the house. I can't remember the guy's name, but they were talking, having coffee, and I walked in all excited, trying to tell her my story, and she was like, well, that's great, son. And I don't think my mother was listening to me, and it really made me angry. So I just ran back over there and grabbed all the neighbors and brought them over the house, brought them all over the house and let them sit down and talk to my mother. And you should have seen the look on her face.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was the beginning of my adventures of being a UFO
Now,
investigator.
where did this take place? I forgot to ask you. What city were you in?
It happened in my hometown of Victoria, Texas. And
Victoria, Texas. Oh my God! Isn't that near Stevensville?
No, Stevensville's is up way up north in Texas.
Oh, okay. I'm getting it mixed up with another town. You're right.
Victoria is on the Gulf of Mexico. It's like an hour and 30 minutes from Houston or to Austin.
Yes.
We call it the crossroads, is what we call it.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, anyhow, wow, what a fascinating beginning for you. I mean, that's just, in other words, you were sucked in at 16 and you haven't stopped since, basically.
Right. That's the truth. I remembered, that was it. If I never had that sighting, I wouldn't, be where I'm at now.
Well, maybe not. I tell people this all the time because I never had a sighting. I didn't have anything happen to me till I was 53 years old. But I had extraordinary things happening to me my entire life. So, and I always thought that I was a little psychic, or, my family's always said I was the black sheep. I'm the one. My grandmothers did tarot card readings, not necessarily tarot cards. They were regular cards, but one grandmother did card readings. The other one and I were very psychic together. And, I tell stories all the time here on my radio show about how I would be in contact with my grandmother, and I would be doing remote viewing. At the time, I had no idea what it was, but now I do. And I would look through her eyes to see where she was so I could tell my mother when she'd be home for dinner. So this is the kind of thing I was doing my entire life, but I didn't have any contact with aliens. So now I'm almost 58 years old, and I'm sitting here and I'm going, whoa, now this is very bizarre. I'm finally seeing UFO and craft. So does this mean that I have had contact since I was a kid? Because that angel that my grandmother saw around the crib in the hospital, that when I almost died, one of the first times I almost died, I died almost so many times since then. It's ridiculous. But who knows? Maybe that was an alien. And that's what my grandmother saw it as an angel, So maybe many of us out there in the world are being contacted from birth, and we just don't realize it until we have an extraordinary event happen to us. And I think possibly, Jeremy, and this is just the Lorien thought process, is that you probably have been having contact your entire life, and possibly your parents as well, or at least one of your parents. Because
I had a sighting with my dad a long time ago, but and I've had many other sightings. There's just so much to talk about that I don't think I can.
No. So anyhow, my point to all this is, I am absolutely sure this is not something that started when you were 16 years old, seeing your first.
Correct. But
absolutely sure of that.
But for me, that was the time where I took it seriously. I've seen things before in my youth that I blew off. And now that I'm older, it was pretty extraordinary.
And now what I say is that was your defining moment.
Yes,
because that was when you realized it was really going on and you needed to pay attention to it. So
it totally pulled the rug out under my feet. I totally, actually, that was spring break weekend, and I was heading over to a friend's. I didn't have a driver's license. He had a truck and he had his driver's license, and we were going to go down to South Padre Island, and go play. But I didn't go do that because actually I didn't do anything that week. I I couldn't stop thinking about that sighting.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't. I mean, for months, I probably thought about it every day.
Oh, I'm sure, at least.
Totally blew my mind.
Yeah.
And
Well,
another thing,
okay. Yeah, go ahead. I was just saying.
another weird thing that I haven't really told anybody about, but the pictures came out great. They were perfect. The first picture
cool.
was a blue sky, and it didn't have any reference points, but it was a blue sky because that was the one when the UFO came back down. Dick snapped one off real fast, and that one he gave to me. He also had another picture that was located over at Mrs. Ladwick's house, and what's really weird about this one, from my memory, was it was tilted at an angle, and it looked a lot lower than what we remembered. It looked like right in front of the tree, and it was tilted like sideways, which I never remembered it tilted sideways. That right there had the house in the background, had the trees in the background. The perfect thing any UFO investigator would love to get their hands on. You got everything from a point of reference. That was the picture. I had my picture for about a week or two, and then somebody broke into Dick's house. The only thing they took was the picture.
Really?
And then somebody took ours same day. So I lost mine and Dick lost his. And that was so upsetting that I could almost cried because that was gold. So for the guys out there, this is a shout out to you that took our pictures. I think it's time for you to give them back to me because I would like to see them. But,
oh my God!
Yeah, and it caused a little bit of a little paranoia with Dick because this guy's house was squared away, spotless. Everything was dressed. The books were all lined perfectly. It's not like he would misplace these. He knows for a fact that somebody came in, opened a drawer, and not just took the photos and the negatives, but took the whole. He had a vacation that he had on that camera, So all the film that was developed, they just took all the pictures, and he was very, very upset about it. Just the fact that somebody could come in and do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, extraordinary. Oh my God. Well, okay. So this really leads us another whole can of worms, but we're not going to go down that road tonight.
I'm just saying that's where it stops because you can't really go anywhere with that. I'm just going to tell you right now, it was so important to me and him. That was like the most important thing that we would not have lost it. Period.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Period.
No, I know exactly what you mean. If I had proof like that, oh my God, I'd be carrying it in my bra on me every day.
It went with me everywhere I went just because I wanted to show it to everybody. But I remember where I set it down. I set it down right in front of the phone, and I walked away. Probably came back. I started to notice that I don't know where it's at. You know what I mean? And then realized I couldn't find it anymore. And then that was around the same time Dick's pictures were missing, and I went over there to get more. I asked if I could get the negatives because I actually thought I lost my picture, but it's kind of weird that his disappears too around the exact same time. So that's just how it felt. I don't think anybody came in and took it, but that's the way it is right now because we would have found it by now.
Jeremy, it's interesting you said that. I don't think anybody came in and took it because I'll tell you why. There are a lot of people out there who have had very similar experiences with proof positive about UFOs and ETs and what have you over the many years that we've been doing research into this. And they absolutely know they had an item sitting somewhere on a table and they would walk into another room and walk back and it would be gone.
That's how it was to me. That's exactly how it was to me. And that's why I have a hard time. I just was wondering if my mother happened to go in there and grab it and put it somewhere. That's the only thing I could think of to rationalize. But looking back on it now, it just disappeared.
Exactly.
And it disappeared. So.
Exactly. And so now it doesn't necessarily mean someone broke in and took it. Now we'll touch a little bit more on that in a few minutes, but there are many explanations as to why this is happening. And I've actually been in contact with somebody who swears they saw an alien come through a portal and retrieve something out of their house and then leave through the portal again. So,
all right, then a shout out to them. Please bring my back.
Yeah, aliens, bring back those pictures. Gosh dang it.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that wild? I mean, and there are many. See, the problem we've got is in this 3D world that we live in, we don't understand how easily they can transverse our time space. I mean, if they know where that picture is, they're going to come and grab it. So anyhow, it's time for our second break, folks. We're here with Jeremy Ray tonight from Hangar 1, and I promise you we're going to get into the Star Team next, and we're going to get into Hangar 1, and we're going to get into all kinds of fun things with MUFON here. When we return, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're back here on IR and the home of the most amazing app. Be sure to get it. And we're here with Jeremy Ray tonight, and we're having a great conversation about his first UFO experience. But now I'm going to take it into another direction. Jeremy, how did you get involved with MUFON beyond having met Ruben and started all this? How did you end up on Hangar 1?
Oh, well, let's see. That's a good question. I just don't know where the beginning began. It was a very, very long process before it really started kicking off the ground. But I remember the director Skyping me. They were looking for MUFON investigators for a TV show. And I was all down to help out and to give them good, I was telling them, the person you need to have on the show is like Richard Dolan. If you're a total noob to UFOs, you need to read this book. I was doing things like that. I didn't expect I was going to be on the show. I was helping out. And anyway, I could tell that he was interested, but that was basically it. And then I'd say about a year later, I think, or somewhere in between that time, Ruben Yorte and Devlin did a sizzle reel. So basically, they took them out and acted like they were doing investigations, with the radiation detector and all that, and they kind of filmed them, and then they put it together to send it off. It's called the sizzle reel. I don't know much. I don't know much about Hollywood. I'm a total noob, but I'm learning. But that's how it started, and then I was asked to come to go do the pilot, and it was me and John Ventry, and Jason McClellan, and John Greenwald. Believe it or not, John Greenwald said he didn't get to be on Hangar 1, but he was there for the pilot, and we did the pilot, and I remembered that they told me that it wasn't going to air on TV, and I was kind of pretty bummed about it because it seemed like it was going to be really good. But I got a chance to look at it, and what I realized, it was like 7 minutes long, and what it actually was it was like a sales pitch for the History Channel,
Oh, you bet, yeah.
So the History Channel has like 10 shows, and you send your sales pitch in, and then they go through and they pick the one that seems really interesting, and then you get your budget, and then you can start your season, And then that took a whole nother year, and then totally forgot about the show. And then one day I got called up to go down there and do it, and I was worried that the show wasn't going to be a good UFO documentary because there's been so many bad ones out there. So many. I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there because I have so many. I got to interrupt you for a second. I have so many friends that have been on these that are so bad, and I meet up with them at International UFO Congress or wherever I'm at that moment, and they look at me and they go, "Why did I even do it?" He goes, "I have to live that down for the rest of my life now," and I just laugh and I say, "Well, look, your ego maybe got in the way, or something happened, but man, you can live it down." You can turn it into gold for you, But I'll tell you, there's a lot of really bad ones out there, and I gotta say, Hangar 1 is one of the best ones I've ever seen. But anyhow, go on. I understand exactly where you're coming from about the, oh my God, what if it's a turkey, right?
Yeah, well, that was one of my big fears, but then to even add, a cherry on top was that I'm not just representing myself. I'm representing MUFON, so it's, even though if the show's going to be really, really bad, which it wasn't, but it would have, affect me and affect this organization. It's just kind of a big responsibility in my mind. I was really nervous season 1, but when I went back and did season 2, actually when I saw the show, I was really pleased, because it was flowing, and then when season 2 aired. It just was done so well. And of course, I've been seasoned. I know what to expect. I know the people there, and I was just more comfortable this time around. The show got 1.7 million viewers. I mean, the season 1 was on H2 and didn't really get that many ratings. I actually, when it was on H2, after it was done, they did a few reruns on History Channel 1. And when they did those reruns, that's when my phone started ringing off the hook. I had people calling me from first and second grade, people from all around that I haven't seen in years. But most people, especially in my hometown, nobody has H2. You have to pay a lot extra money for that. But History Channel is part of the free cable package or whatever there. So season 2, they moved from H2 to to H1, which is History Channel 1. And that's why I think we got 1.7 million viewers, is because you have a bigger viewership on that channel.
Oh, exactly. See, my dad actually knows what Hangar 1 was because he saw his first episode a little while back on the History Channel. If I had mentioned it to him a year ago, he wouldn't have known what I was talking about. You're absolutely right, because it's not part of the package. The H2, you have to pay tons of extra money to get in most places, and most people aren't going to do that, and I don't blame them. None of us have hardly any time to watch TV it is, let alone pay $89 extra for a package you're never going to watch, right?
I always felt like, why do we have to pay over $300 and we still get commercials?
Oh, God, please. Don't even get me started about television, because what I do is I don't watch regular television anymore. I haven't for years. What I do is I watch on demand. I find 5 or 6 shows I like, and I program them to record, and if I don't record them, then I watch them on demand. And I fast forward through the commercials if I can. But have you noticed lately that you can't fast forward through on demand anymore? Through the darn commercials?
I did not know that, but I don't watch much TV anyway.
I know. None of us do. Isn't that interesting? That's another phenomena about the awake people. I call the people that in the UFO community or the conspiracy community or, whatever community you're into that has, it's all fringe stuff, right? Mm-hmm. These people don't watch television. I mean, we're just not big TV watchers. I mean, I must say, I do have my favorites. I've got to watch them. I mean, things like, God, but there's so many. Continuum was one of the ones I was watching for a while, and I had, all my Sci-Fi Channel stuff I watch. I hear Childhood's End is coming to Sci-Fi, and I can't wait to see that. And, I just got certain things I love. And what I got hooked on recently is Turn, the American Civil War, not Civil War. Gosh, where am I? My brain. The American Revolutionary War spies. It's absolutely fascinating, and I'm loving it. So I might have to check that out. That sounds interesting. It is. It's really good. They just finished season 2, and it's all on demand. So check it out. I think everybody that listens to me should check that show out. I just love it. It's kind of interesting. I sit and I listen to watch these, spy shows or Revolutionary War shows or, whatever. And I think to myself, my God, these people were spreading the truth. They were trying to do something patriotic and true. It's so similar to what the UFO community is doing now in the United States. Is we're trying to break through that paradigm of, what is reality and what isn't. And these people were doing kind of the same thing back in the day. So, what can I say? It's really an interesting show, and I think people should pay attention to it, as well as Hangar 1. So anyhow, you're on Hangar 1 now, and now everybody's kind of accepting you and what's going on with MUFON in a much bigger scale, right? Yeah, it's actually, it's kind of... This last month, MUFON sightings have doubled, and I don't think it has to do with a bunch of UFOs popping up. I think most of these cases are old stories, but people watch the show and they want to have their UFO story documented, and so that's why we got slammed this month. I read a post by Richard Dolan earlier today that he said. It's kind of very similar to what happened when Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie, came out. There was a big, huge surge in UFO sightings, or UFO reports, not sightings. And I think the same things. I think that Hangar 1 is an awesome platform for MUFON, people to get to know MUFON as a household name.
A lot of law enforcement officers wouldn't know what to do with their report because the supervisor would turn it down when they would fill out a UFO sighting. And of course, the only way they would hear about MUFON is if someone knew about it or they actually did time to look it up. But now it's becoming a household name. Like I can, it's kind of interesting. I've talked to people that are young that you would think wouldn't know anything about it, and they do because they've seen the show. So the show is believe it or not, there's a lot of fans out there. There's a huge fan base in India that the educational systems actually embraced it in school. Poor Jan, he's so busy, but he got a letter from a teacher in India that wanted an autograph from all the cast people so they could have it in their classroom. And I've had students write me with their homework assignments. But they don't ask me questions about UFOs. They ask me if I'm friends with Giorgio, the guy with the poofy hair on Ancient Aliens.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on Giorgio's hair.
It's just, it's interesting because like I said, it was on H2 season 1. Didn't have that many viewership in America, but when it went overseas, they had over 1 million viewers in India. It was a big hit there. Of course, England got to see it, Canada. It just takes a little bit. Once it airs here, then it goes everywhere else. And if it ever hits, whenever it goes to DVD, which I don't think it's going to for a while, but when it does, then it'll be on Netflix. And when that happens, everybody will see it because everybody watches Netflix. Most people don't watch television like they did back in 20 years ago.
Absolutely. The market share now, if I remember correctly, because I was just looking this up a while back, is about 20% are now on Hulu and Netflix and Amazon and, Amazon, what is it, Fire TV and the Chromecast thing. I mean, it was hitting 20% about almost a year ago. I think that's probably exponentially growing because so many people just don't have a TV like they don't have a cell phone anymore. I mean, a regular home phone. They all have cell phones and they have their laptop or their tablet and they watch their entertainment on those devices now.
Yes,
so, what do you need a TV for? And I can guarantee you in 30 years, a TV is going to be a thing of the past,
Well, I probably might keep. I love playing video games, so that's what I'd use my TV for. But
exactly. I mean, that's what it'll be for. They'll be used as a monitor device, much more than a dedicated television. Is my point to all this.
Well, actually, I have my living room set up. I got like a 55-inch flat screen, but I don't ever watch cable on it. I have my computer hooked up to it. So I usually watch shows through Netflix or whatever on my computer on my big TV. But I do have cable.
Exactly.
I just need to stop paying for it because I don't watch it. So
see, there you are. But you know what? As a person on Hangar One, you do need to pay for cable so you can get the History Channel.
Right.
So you can be part of that. You should be recording them, Jeremy. Come on.
I actually called Comcast and tried to swindle a deal. And be like, well, you ought to watch my show. I have to watch my show, so I need H2. But I'm definitely. And she was like, well, we can do this package for 6 months. And I'm like, no, I'm going to cancel the package as soon as the show's over with because that's the only show I'm going to check out. I want to see how they turned out, And then once it's done, I'm going to turn my H2 package off.
Oh, that's funny.
That's just, trying to cut ends here like everybody else does. But
that's right. I mean, I got to say, the people in the UFO community, we are not rolling in big bucks.
No, we're not.
Even if you're on Hangar One, you're not rolling in big bucks. Oh, my God. Well, anyhow, okay, so Hangar One, you kind of just started helping out, and then the next thing you know, you're on the pilot, and things are going well, and now you're on the show, and everything's good, and that's wonderful. So how did you end up on the Star Team, though? I'm very curious about that. And can you tell us a little bit about anything that you've done on the Star Team,
Sure.
or can you?
Yeah, definitely. I got a case I could talk about. That was great.
Well, first, how did you end up on the Star Team? Because you've been with MUFON for almost a decade now, right?
When I was in Sacramento, Cynthia Siegel was given.
By the way, big shout out to Cynthia. She's my buddy. Kisses, kisses. Okay.
I'm giving her a telepathic hug right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she's there and she's giving her talk, and Chuck Reaver was the
Chuck Reaver. Yeah.
He's up in Truckee and he's an awesome gentleman.
He is?
He was chief of investigations during that time. And he had a book, and it was called Star Team. It was a little binder, and it was the plan of what they were gonna do. And he let me look over it, and I was very interested in it, and I wanted to be on it, But I think in the beginning there was like maybe 3 or 4 people, like Chuck Malden was on the Star Team, and I don't know who else was, but it was people that had the gear and had the time and the funds to go do that. Then later on, Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, from Robert Bigelow, decided to fund MUFON, and that's when I got the application. Chuck Reeder told me, now you can fill out the application for it. And I filled out the application, and they wanted, military background or whatever, and I put all that in there, and I submitted it in, and I got accepted. And I was a part of that. I was a part of the SIP project, is what they call it. It's SIP, I think it stood for Star Impact Project, and STAR was the acronym for Strike Team for Area Research. There's so many acronyms, but anyway, that was the project for.
Jeremy, I've got to interrupt you for a second here. Now, I've heard a few things that are raising flags for me, but I'm going to let them go. But there's one thing that I'm very curious about. You said that the application requested that you have military training?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I put my military background on there because I didn't know what to put down on that thing,
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. It wasn't a requirement, in other words.
No. I don't think so. No, it's just they asked your background. And, I could say building computers or, other side projects I've done. But I figured I'd put military down because when I was in the Army, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I did do crash retrieval operations. So when I was in Kosovo, a pilot crashes up in the mountains, and our platoon would go up there and rescue them, and detonate the ordnance and Chinook the helicopter out. So I figured if I put that on the application, maybe if we ever got lucky to do a crash retrieval, I have some experience in that. But not with alien spaceships, just, military helicopters. But so that's what I put on the application. Didn't know if I was going to get accepted or not, and I got accepted.
Okay.
And then that was where we got paid. We actually got paid to do investigations. So to me, my hobby, it was a hobby that now I'm actually getting paid for it, and I thought that was pretty awesome. But let's talk about one case I was assigned to during that time. I was assigned to a case up in Houston, Texas, and basically here's what happened. There's 2 individuals, and of course they want to be anonymous, so I'm going to leave out a lot of details about them, but they went on a vacation. They rented a car in Houston, Texas, and they went on I think they went, where did they go? Could have been the Grand Canyon or something, but that's not the point. The point is they're coming back, and they're in Texas, and this is when it happened. They were driving down the road out in the middle of nowhere, and there was a groundhog sticking his head out in the middle of the road. So the driver slammed on the brakes, and his buddy was an amateur photographer. So he went out there. He wanted to take pictures of that groundhog, and he started snapping away. And he started to look around. Yeah, they just pulled off the side of the road. They're on their way heading back home, and he wanted to snap a few pictures of these groundhogs. So there was he said there was probably like 200 out there, and which is kind of normal. I was at first when he told me that I wasn't believing it, but it's kind of normal.
Oh no, there are places where you can see like fields of groundhogs poking their heads up and down, just like that whack-a-mole game.
Right. They were just having fun, anyway, taking pictures. Then all of a sudden, they both got the feeling that they were being watched, and they got this really sickly feeling like they need to get the hell out of there now. And so they both kind of looked at each other like they were spooked. They get in the car and they start driving. And in the report, I remember they couldn't remember if it was 5 minutes after they left or about 5 miles, somewhere in between that time frame. They're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, this big shadow comes over the top of their car, and it's like in a circle pattern, not like a cloud or anything like that. And he looks up, and there's this saucer-shaped object following them while they're driving down the road 75 miles an hour. They start to freak out, trying to speed up so they can see, or slow down so they can see what's above it. And the the guy that's in the passenger seat, he looks out the window out in the desert, and he sees this man running in the desert, like coming towards them. But the man's naked, but he's like very pale white, and his head looked like an upside down teardrop, is what they described it. He didn't look human. And this thing's running on the side of the road.
God, I got to ask one horrible question because everybody's thinking this. Does he have any genitalia?
No, I asked that too. It was basically, it was almost like a white, sort of like it was like a glowing white being. It's the best way to describe it. Or he was so pale that it was bright. But no genitalia or anything like that. The guy was running sideways, coming towards the car. So you have this guy out, whatever it is, running out in the I'm trying to describe it to you. They're trying to speed up, and this thing's running alongside with them, and they're going about 100 miles an hour, trying to outrun the UFO that's above them, and trying to outrun this gentleman, whatever you want to call it, this thing that's catching up to them really fast, and it's coming at them at an angle. Before they know it, the guy, the thing or whatever it is, hits the car, and when that happens, there's a big loud bang, and both of the guys in the car describe very similar. One guy described it as like you stuck your head inside a mayonnaise jar, and the other guy described it as like a bunch of tissue paper around his eyes and face. They were listening to David Bowie. I think that was on the radio during the time. And when that thing hit the car, everything went white, and there was like no sound. You couldn't hear the radio, couldn't hear anything. You couldn't even hear your ears ringing, is what they described. It's a very weird feeling. And then they felt like they were being lifted, like the car came off the ground, and they were going up. The next thing they remember, they're back on the road, and they're driving, and they're giggling, and they're having a good time. One of the driver described it as like he felt like he was a little intoxicated. It just felt, a little euphoria. And then all of a sudden they go, wait a second. Didn't we just get in a wreck? Didn't we just hit something? And they decided to stop and pull off the side of the road and look at their car for damage. They remembered that part. And by sitting there trying to figure out, that doesn't make sense. Didn't something hit us? And then the guy was like, yeah, a person hit us. And then once they said that, all their memories came back, and all they could remember.
My God!
All they could remember was to the point when they were lifted. They got home. They had I don't know, give or take. They don't really know for sure. They weren't really tracking them, but they should have been home about an hour earlier, maybe 2 hours earlier. So there might be missing time there. They didn't have their facts straight on when they left, so it's hard to tell. But they do feel like the trip. They should have been home a lot more sooner. With the time frame, so there might be missing time. So they submitted their case to MUFON, and that was called a Category 3 because you have evidence, you have the vehicle. If the vehicle was picked up, then we can get readings off of it. You know what I mean? So that was a STAR team case. I went out and interviewed them. I believed them. I know that they were truly scared. And they wanted answers, but the thing about it was a rent-a-car, and they rented it from the Houston airport, and by that time it was already rented out, so good luck trying to track that down.
Right.
It was just, if it was their car, that would have been great, but that was one STAR team case that I did that was really, that I found pretty fascinating.
Okay, now before we get into the next one or another couple or whatever we're going to do here, we're going to have a break here in about a minute. Sure. So I just want to thank you for sharing that, and I want to, maybe we can examine it just to hear more here. Now, did they ever figure out what type of being it was that hit the car? Did you guys show them the millions of pictures of different aliens?
No, we don't really have a just, if you can just draw a person and color it in white with an upside down teardrop, that's it. There was no eyes, there was no nose, there was no ears. It was just a glowing silhouette of a person, pale white.
Okay, that's very intriguing, and I've got something to say about that as soon as we come back from our next break. Okay, so everyone, stay with us. This is Fascinating Tonight with Jeremy Ray from Hangar One. You can connect up with him on Facebook. That's Jeremy, just like it sounds, and it's R-A-Y. Is that correct, Jeremy?
Yes, ma'am.
And people can become your friend on Facebook and follow you along, right?
Sure.
Good, great, wonderful. Okay, everybody, stay with us. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Welcome back, everyone, to the last part of the show tonight. And I'm just having such a great time having Jeremy Ray here with me tonight from Hangar One and MUFON. He's a star team person, and he has just fascinating stories to tell. And Jeremy, why don't you if you can, give people your synopsis of what was going on with that last incident you were telling us about, and then we'll get into one more or so here before the end of the show.
Really, it's not really a synopsis. I was saying, in my mind, it kind of doesn't make any sense when you have a vehicle driving down the road and you have a UFO or flying saucer on top of it, and then you've got this being running through the desert to catch up to the car. You would think the being would be inside the craft and not on the ground running along the side of the car to get inside the car for the UFO to pick it up. So you can let your imagination, go freely here and try to figure out, what it is. But, of course, I don't have an answer. But if we used our imagination just a little bit, I would say, if we were making a good movie here, based off something that's true, that this being is running for its life. It's escaped from somewhere, and it was trying to get to, to be evac. That's just what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Like it was running.
Yeah.
It was running. It found the car. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how they think, but all I know is the way the guys were describing it, this thing was running at full sprint. They were accelerating to 100 miles an hour, and it was keeping up, and it was on a trajectory to hit them, and they were scared for their lives. The guys looking out the door, out the window, it's getting closer. My thing is, as soon as this white light being, or whatever you want to call it, gets inside the car, they're all kind of stuck in like no sound, no time, or whatever. Everything's stopped, but they do feel the sensation that they're being lifted up into the craft. So maybe, it's kind of like, what's that guy's name? I can't think of his name right now.
Travis?
That used to do, well, even Travis, but that used to do crash retrievals of alien ships. What's his name?
Oh, which one?
No, I know.
Yeah, my brain's going to have to start working here. Oh, my God.
But that gentleman, it'll come to me in a minute what his name is. I'm sorry. But he says that, that when the craft crashes, that they'll have a rescue, that there's other UFOs that'll come down and beam them up. So when they would usually get to the crash site, they wouldn't find any aliens because they were rescued already.
You bet.
And maybe that was a rescue operation, or maybe it's something more than that. But that's just me using my imagination to try to figure out what the heck is that all about. Because, all is what they reported, and trying to figure out the motive of what the entity was doing is like a whole nother ball game. And of course I didn't put that in the report because that's all speculating, it's just, but that's just me. That's just me giving my 2 cents on.
Yeah. And your 2 cents is very important, especially since you're the one who investigated that. And, and that's the great part about MUFON. At least, we guys can get here on a radio show and talk about what we think might have happened. Whereas MUFON has to keep really data oriented. And I understand that because you can't let it get too far afield. Because if you do, then, it's not really data fact finding. It turns into everybody's opinion. And believe me, we all have that, right?
Yes, we do. And that's not really my opinion. I don't know. But that one right there,
it's an observation.
Fills in the blanks a little bit. Just a little bit, but I'm not sure. But that's, to me, an alien or an entity running on the side of the road to catch up, not just with the car, but with the saucer that's flying the car. Sounds like he needed to looks like he was like, please pick me up. Please.
Yeah, please get me out of here.
Yeah, get me off this planet immediately.
Oh my God.
But
okay.
So,
so we're going to move on. If we have time, we're going to go into a couple more stories if you've got them about the Star Team work you're doing. But here we go, because we're already getting questions from the chat room. Sure. So I'd like to hit those up as soon as possible. So here we go. Okay. Sky33 asks, Jeremy, have you had any communication through telepathy with any UFOs or crafts or orbs? Or if you haven't, have you ever heard of anybody else where this is happening with them?
The answer to his question is yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Oh, cool. Okay. And that is a woman, by the way, Sky 33. I always thought it was a man, too. So
Oh, sorry.
she knows.
Okay.
No, it's okay. You didn't know. And so, Sky, there's your answer. Yes and yes. Now, can you expand upon any
Sure.
of that, or do you want to?
Sure, not really, because it puts you in the category of crazy. But I will go ahead and tell you from my own personal experience. When I was seeing a UFO, I felt this psychic connection, or this connection. I can't explain what it is, but I would know that. Like example, if you are who I think you are, could you move to the left? And then it would respond.
Oh, very intriguing.
Or things like that. But I've had a lot of sightings in my life, and I could give you many examples. But yes, there's a lot of people out there that had these experiences happen to them. I'm not the only one. Okay.
Cool. Okay, great. So the next question comes from Neutron in the chat. He says, are reported abductions in the last 10 years also increasing as UFO sightings have according to MUFON? And why is this so, in your opinion? And I think you kind of answered that earlier about the Hangar 1 show being on air and that more people are doing it. But do you think that the UFO sightings are increasing?
I think that the UFO reports are increasing because of the awareness of MUFON. And MUFON's getting a lot of reports because people have always probably wanted to report their sighting, and finally there is an organization, or someone would think, oh, there really is something out there. MUFON's been around since 1969, but most people, it's not advertised like it is on this show. They slap that MUFON logo every 5 seconds. You know what I mean? So people are seeing the name. They're. Besides that, you can't buy advertisement like that. I just want to put that out there. But people see the name and they contact MUFON. That's why the sightings are doubled this month. But as for his question about abductions, from what I've heard through the grapevine, they're kind of on a downcline.
I agree with you on that. And I want to just make an observation from my, 30, 40 years of being involved in this on the fringe, and then very much so the last 15 to 10 years, is that I've noticed that there aren't as many abductions going on. What's happening now is I think the whole style of how we're communicating with the other beings is changing quite rapidly. I think there's a lot more contact on a consciousness level than there ever was before, or at least now we're recognizing it as such. I think that there may have been a lot of people communicating with aliens at different points in time, but they were just slapped as crazy and thrown in loony bins or given pills,
I wanted to backtrack on that person's question. There's one more thing I'd like to add, and this is my opinion, or just as my thought of what I think is going on. I don't know how to describe it, but I do believe that some of these UFOs, their onboard computer system, if whatever you want to call it, directly interfaces with consciousness on all life forms on this planet.
Exactly.
So it's like a radar, except you don't need a ping going back and forth. All you need is someone to look at the object, and they already know that you're looking at it. That's how it works. And so you already have that connection. So that's what I was trying to say. If you move to the left, move to the left, or could you get closer? Or if they know you're afraid, they'll back away from you, et cetera, et cetera. I always known that even in my UFO story where I was trying to get under it, I hear through a lot of other cases that that's where you do not want to be. Okay, and maybe that's why the UFO was backing up, because it didn't want to harm us. And look what happened to Miss Ladwick. She was disoriented and blinded. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
But to answer that guy's or that woman's question, that's my gut instinct. I do believe that how their technology is just way beyond the scope of what we think. If you see them, they see you. That's the best way to put it. So.
Well, I think it goes much deeper than that.
Oh yeah, it does. But that's the best way I can dumb it down in a real short.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There is my biggest point to everything I talk about in my presentations is that when I was 53 years old, I had a weekend of what I call my weekend of awakening. And it was in the moment that I flipped open the laptop and I thought about something that had happened in the past. I thought about, the exact thought I had was, I wonder if Solaria, the woman I was traveling with, remembers the day the helicopter came over the house and she heard it on the phone. Because I was talking to her, she heard it, I talked about it, blah, 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 with her, right? I'm at this conference. I flip open the laptop. I think about it. I just think about it. And it takes a fraction of a second to think about something like that, right?
Right.
So I think about it, and instantly there is a helicopter really low over the house. Never heard it coming. And it's there, and it's as loud as day. It's practically shaking the house. Now, I go to the window. I don't see a helicopter. I see 3 orange balls of light in a triangle formation over the house. And it took me 3 months to figure out, because I asked everybody the next day, did you hear that helicopter is so loud? And everybody said, no, we didn't hear a thing. And they had just walked into the other room, literally like a minute ago. So I'm convinced now that whoever is in contact with me did that to wake me up and get me on the path I'm on right now. Absolutely.
Do you think it might be possible, this is a question for you, that it might be possible that a black helicopter with no markings might not actually be military industrial complex or anybody on this planet? I always was wondering, wouldn't UFOs, since UFOs can morph, couldn't they morph into anything they want to if they really wanted to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I totally agree with you on that. I've thought that now for quite some time.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I've just heard a lot of weird stuff through the grapevine and seen some things that make me question, even though you know what you saw, you could have been deceived. You know what I mean? Your eyes can't deceive you.
That's absolutely it. And plus, you've got the whole thing about them being able to read your mind and control your mind. I mean, people, what I had happen to me, I think is 10 times more profound than anybody putting a thing up my nose or taking my eggs. I think what they did to me was extraordinary in the fact, and I say this only because it happened to me. I mean, somebody else may say, oh, it doesn't mean squat. But for me, what it did is it completely pried my psyche open to the point where I am so aware of the fact that their presence, they could be sitting right next to me at my desk here and influencing everything I'm doing right now in this radio show. That's how insidious their control is of everybody on this planet. So...
well, let's try not to scare everybody all at the same time, right?
Well, I'm not, exactly. I'm not sure it's all bad because, I get some amazing telepathic or visionary or theta communication with these beings that are involved in my life. And it's not bad. I can't say it's always great. I can't say that they've actually helped me make a living and keep a roof over my head or done anything to make my life extraordinary, but they certainly have made a difference in my life. Now, whether it's going to end up in the end be a good or bad thing that I followed along with their game, is another, we'll see. We'll see in the next lifetime, right? But I don't know. We're all confused. Everybody who's in this is confused in some way, in some way, shape, or form. We're confused about why we're involved in the first place. So,
well, it could be it reminds me of things that Dr. Birx would say. It just sounds like, if Dr. Birx was here, he would probably say it sounds like it's a sign of support. He's very positive on the whole ET thing. Like Stephen Greer says there's no bad aliens. They're all good. I
don't know about that.
I don't know about that because I think like attracts like. If we're a warlike species, we're probably going to attract a warlike race. I just my guess. But also, as above, so below.
Absolutely.
Yep. Just take it. I would bet that there's probably way more good out there than there are bad.
Well, I think we help create those beings too. I mean, they wouldn't be in our dimension if we didn't absolutely believe in their existence. So I think more of us have a better positive view of an angel or that type of being in our lives.
Wait. That's funny you bring that up. I'm sorry for interrupting, but think about this.
No, cool.
A person who's like a devout Catholic doesn't have a sighting of Buddha, okay? And somebody who's into Buddha and all that, they don't have a sighting of the Virgin Mary. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's my point here. It's, we create the type of being that comes to us through our paradigm of our holographic mind. I mean, we've come to the realization in 2015 that we do have a holographic mind. Everything we create creates another version of itself in another type of dimensional force,
Right.
you know?
Do you remember Star Trek, the movie 5? No, it wasn't Undiscovered Country. It's called I don't remember what it's called. Star Trek 5, where Captain Kirk goes meet God. You remember at the end of the movie?
I
Maybe you
kind
have
of
seen it.
do. I'm
Okay,
trying to
but
remember which one that was.
When he meets the being shows all these different faces, and then it picks the face that Kirk is very comfortable with to to represent as God. But of course, that being wasn't God. It was an alien trying to manipulate them. But to make a long story short, if you can see and understand someone's mind and what their thought process, you could and if you can manifest whatever you want, then, and if you want the person to be comfortable, then you would pick what the person's comfortable with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a huge part of this whole thing. And people need to really, I think that my purpose here is to wake people up to the fact that that's how they've got to start thinking about this whole thing. Not like, oh God, we're being abducted, or, oh God, they're just angels, or, whatever. We need to really focus on to keep our minds open to the fact that it could be anything out there. You can't just land on one thing and say, this is the way it is. Because when you do, you become like the preachers out there who say, you have to believe, it's not like that. It's much more complex, and we need to keep much more open-minded about a lot of things. And I think that's what they're telling me. So that's how I function, Jeremy. So anyhow, do we have time? Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to make a comment on that? Because I say we have one more question.
Sure. Maybe the door swings both ways into where we create our own reality, as so does the others, and we have to find a common level for it to manifest. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's a good thought.
Okay, next question. I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. Next question. Okay, this is from Durhuff. He's one of my major contributors for questions, along with Neutron and Sky33. He says, Lorien, would you ask Jeremy his view of triangular UFO sightings? Does he have an opinion as to there being us or them? Good question.
Oh, that is a great question, because it depends on how far back you go. I mean, as of now, of our time, 2015, or the 90s to where we're at, I would say that we have craft like the TR-3B, and then that Aurora, and there's a couple of things that were in Popular Science or Popular Mechanics magazines that were talking about new high-tech craft that would be coming out in the future. But I think a lot of people are seeing that triangle-shaped craft is probably made in the USA. Probably Lockheed Martin Skunk Works' new high-tech toy. It's called TR-3B. But when you go back to, say, like Art Bell, when he got out of his car, he saw this massive triangle craft, and I forgot what year it was, but that was a long time ago.
It was 1996 or 5, something like that.
Okay. Well, what I heard is the TR-3B or that type of craft was around in the 90s. If you start going back further, and God knows, when did we create this, that, it could be a mix of identification. It could be ours, and it could be off-world or from out of town or whatever you want to call it. So that's my view. It's 50-50. It could be ours, and it could be theirs. They could have triangle craft too. Why not, right?
Exactly. And I agree with you on that wholeheartedly, because that's what I saw was a giant triangle UFO that popped into my reality. And thank God my friend Diane saw it with me at the same time, where everybody else was looking through a night vision goggle, and they were looking straight up into the sky. And this thing was so low, it was like over the willow tree in the parking lot in the sky. So it wasn't up in the atmosphere. It was down low, flying over the city, right? And this thing pops into vision, and I tell people it materialized, and they laugh at me, but that's really what happened. It's like I'm looking up at the stars, and all of a sudden this thing pops into my vision, and I realize it's a black triangle up against a black sky. So it's like it's this very almost dark gray to the point of blackness. and it has 3 lights in the corners, and I see something in the middle, but it's so low I can't see quite up into the middle of it. And I know there's something up in the middle as well. And what it's doing is it looks like it's like vibrating, like somebody was driving it wrong. And I talked to Gary up in Sacramento, who's a MUFON investigator. I can't think of his
How
last
long
name.
has Gary been there?
Quite a while. Anyhow,
I know who Gary is.
I'm talking to Gary about it, and he goes,
Yep.
"Oh, you saw something pretty extraordinary. What you saw was the plasma field around it shimmering when they came out of becloaking or whatever they're doing." And then he goes, "What did it do? Did it stop shimmering and then take off?" I said, "That's exactly what it did. It stopped shimmering. I could see the lights, and then it starts moving kind of slow, and then all of a sudden it was gone like in a flash and disappeared again." So he's going, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." And he goes, "That's really normal, but I never got a feeling that it was theirs. I had a feeling it was ours because I didn't have any connection with it. It was just there."
That connection that you're talking about is what I was talking about I don't have the correct term. I don't know what the wording is, but like their onboard computer system directly interfaces with consciousness type thing.
Exactly.
Yep. I don't know if we have that technology, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do. But from my experience, when I've had UFO sightings, I felt a feeling inside. I cannot describe it. It's just a feeling that I know that they're not from here. Okay? And it's a good feeling. It's not a bad feeling. But, I'm pretty sure I never feel that when a helicopter's hovering above me. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And see, that's the feeling I got. I just didn't get any feeling at all. So except for to scream out to everybody, "Hey, look, there's a UFO." And by the time they all figured out where it was in the sky, it's gone, right? Mm-hmm. But very bizarre stuff. I can't believe this, Jeremy. You're going to laugh. We've got less than 2 minutes left in the show. And we could sit here and talk for another 2 hours, right?
Yeah, I have barely scratched the surface with you.
Yeah, great. So you got to promise me you'll come on the show again in a few months, like 4 or 5 months from now. Actually, when does Hangar 1 start up again, or is it started now? I think it just started again, right?
No, season 2 just ended.
That's it.
A couple Fridays ago. So we're done. We topped off at 1.7 million viewers. That's a lot of people in the United States that are learning about ufology, that's for sure, and learning about MUFON. So I see as our show and many other UFO documentaries and even radio shows like yourself is like a massive, I don't know if propaganda is a word, but I'll call it propaganda campaign to get everybody used to hearing about it and get everybody comfortable talking about it. So maybe one of these days when Uncle Sam has to, and I mean when they have to, let the cat out of the bag. We don't freak out. We go back to work, and the world keeps turning. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And also, the contact I've had, they've said it's time for all of us to tell our truth, and we have to get it out there because it's time now. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do. It's just to get the truth out there. So thank you, Jeremy, for being with me tonight. You were wonderful. We'll see you again here on the show. Everybody have a great week. I'll see you next week on the California MUFON Radio Show. Good night, everyone.